Hi, this is part 2 of my Bioshock 2 review. In part 1, I left off talking about plasmids, the powers that you use to, along with your weapons, take out enemies. All the plasmids that appear in Game 1, in Bioshock 1, appear in Bioshock 2. I'll briefly go over what those are. You have Electrobolt, which allows you to shoot electricity from your hands to stun or damage enemies. You have Incinerate, which allows you to shoot fire from your hands to set fire to people or things. You have Winter Blast, which allows you to freeze things. You have Telekinesis. You can pick things up and throw them. You have Cyclone Trap, which I will talk about a little bit more in detail in a little bit. You have Insect Swarm, which allows you to shoot a swarm of insects from your hand that will damage and distract your enemies. There's Decoy, which you can use to set up a decoy of yourself, kind of a silhouette in a different area that will distract enemies. They will run towards the decoy instead of you and shoot at that, allowing you to do whatever it is that you need to do to them. You have Security Command, gives you a blue ball that you can use to tag a particular enemy. Once that enemy is tagged, any security in the area, cameras, bots, turrets, they will now see that enemy as an enemy and do some of the fighting for you. There's Hypnotize, which you can use to toss at an enemy. They will go into sort of a berserk mode, and they will attack anyone, friend or foe. And then you have 2 new powers that I won't be discussing here. Again, something in the game you'll want to look at for yourself. Each main plasmid type can be upgraded between 2 to 3 times. And all of the fun that you had in the first game, combining the powers of all the plasmids, of course, is back in this game, whether that be, setting enemies on fire, and they go ahead and they run to a pool of water to try to put themselves out, and then you go ahead and electrify the water, in effect, killing them. You can, use telekinesis to grab grenades out of the air that are thrown at you and throw them back at the person who threw them or somebody else in the room. And then there's Cyclone Trap, which I mentioned I talk about a little bit more because to me this is probably the power that you'll have the most fun with in the game. What it is it's a trap that you lay on the ground. It's kind of a vortex of wind that appears on the ground, and when enemy splicers walk over it, they're launched into the air and take damage based on what they hit on the way up and what they hit on the way down, which is, of course, normally the floor. Now, this can be upgraded up to level 3. Once you get to the level 3 Cyclone Trap, world of fun. I mean, I won't go over exactly what these levels entail, but suffice to say that Cyclone Trap is something that you should see for yourself in the game. I recommend that you pick it up, use it when you get the chance, and have fun with it. You can use it to, again, launch people into the air. You can set up traps using fire. You can set up traps with ice, electricity. You can set up cyclone traps using bees. Anyway, Cyclone Trap is fantastic. But that brings me to one of the biggest changes and improvements in the game in terms of your abilities to take out enemies using weapons and plasmids, and that is dual wielding. In the first game, you used your weapon with your right hand, or both hands, depending on the weapon, whether it be a machine gun or a shotgun, and then your plasmids with your left hand. So you were only able to have either a weapon or a plasmid out at one time. If you had your weapon, you want to use a plasmid, you would switch hands, and this hand would appear, and your weapon would disappear, and vice versa. Now, it worked. It was okay. But in Bioshock 2, you now have access to both hands at the same time. All the weapons that you get in the game are held fully with the right hand. There's no dual-hand weapons. And your plasmids are still used in your left hand. But you have them out at both at all times. And this actually can make for some pretty interesting combinations as well. Throughout the game, I didn't even remember that in the first game you couldn't do this. And it just felt so much more natural to be able to have your gun out, have your plasmid out, and fire, shoot, stun, shoot. Anyway, dual wielding was a fantastic way to improve a big part of the game, and that's how you do it. You make improvements in the sequel. So another big improvement from the last game is the research. In Bioshock 1, you were given a research camera, and you were asked to photograph each enemy type in the game to gain certain damage bonuses, and you gain gene tonics, which are buffs that you can add to your character to help you throughout the game. The better the photo, the faster you could fully research the enemy to gain the bigger bonuses. You were given grades based on how, I think it's how close you were to the enemy. You got better grades based on how close you were. So if a spider splicer was about ready to pounce on you, you snapped the photograph of him right in your face, A+. And then you had ammunition for the camera as well. You had to collect film around the world, and you could buy film in vending machines. In Bioshock 2, you can go ahead and put that dusty Kodak away, because you're about to make some movies. The way that they improved the research in Bioshock 2, the research camera is now a video camera. So the way it works is, when you see an enemy, you switch to your video camera. It's in your weapon wheel, and you aim it at your enemy. You click the trigger, and what happens is that enemy is now outlined in gold. He is your target, your subject for this movie, and the video's rolling. So while it's filming, you get points based on how creative you can get in killing him, defeating him. So, if you use the same gun, if you just keep shooting him with bullets during the filming, it'll get you some points, but it won't get you an A+. You want to go ahead and combine your powers, your weapons, and this is a great way that developers put in to help you just experiment with what you have at your disposal. So you might want to throw some fire, throw a cyclone trap while he's in the air, throw some ice, he comes down, maybe he shatters, maybe he doesn't, he gets back up. Hit him with the butt of your gun. I mean, there's a myriad number of ways that you can use to take down each particular enemy while you're filming them. You can only film the character once. He doesn't necessarily need to die. He or she doesn't necessarily need to die while you're filming. It's just you rack up points as you do damage. And again, the more creative you get, the higher your grade for the photo will be, the faster your research will go. Also, a nice addition to the research is in the menu of the game, you now have a separate screen for research which shows you all your progress for each particular enemy type and all the bonuses that you can receive if you were to reach that level of research. In the first game, I don't believe that there was a screen that actually showed you all of your progress, and I don't think it showed you the prizes or bonuses that you get for actually completing the research. So again, great improvement to the research, improvements to the weapon system in terms of the dual wield. Another big part of Bioshock 1 was hacking. Now hacking is back in Bioshock 2, but in a much improved and brand new way. So for a city that was supposedly founded on freedom, it's talked a lot about in the game, there's a lot of security in the game. A lot of cameras, a lot of turrets just kind of laying around. Now, you can use this security. I mean, they're always looking for you. All the security is keeping an eye out for you, but you can use the security to your advantage. I will go into that a little bit more in detail in part 3 in just a moment, as my time is just running short. I don't want to go too far into it and then get cut off. So join me for part 3.